ABC's Marcus Moore joins us now, live from the capital city of Ukraine, Kyiv. Marcus, so how are Ukrainian forces using U.S. intelligence? This has been going on from the beginning, from before the beginning, and might help explain, in addition to their spirit and skill, the effectiveness of Ukrainian forces.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Terry. The help that they've been getting from the U.S. and from the West has gone far beyond the equipment that we've reported so much on. But as you know, they have also been receiving intelligence, specifically about the movements of Russian troops, as well as the locations of some of those mobile command posts that the Russians have been using to launch some of their attacks. And it's with that information that the Ukrainians have been able to not only defend their positions, but also launch counterattacks. And so the information that they've been getting, that intelligence, has been critical in this fight that they have combined not only with the will, as you mentioned, the will to survive, and to fight, but along with that intelligence has helped them stay in this fight that's now in its 71st day, Terry.
So, Marcus, what's going on with that steel plant, that massive steel plant in Mariupol? Feels like the Alamo to me. They've been holed up there and fighting, fending off Russians who have taken control of the rest of that city. They won't give up. And I guess there are some civilians there as well. What's happening?
Yeah, Terry, there has been absolutely intense fighting there at the Mariupol, at the Azovstal steel plant there in that port city. And it has been the focal point of a very intense fighting there, as the Russians have worked hard to try to take the city, and in particular that plant that, as you just mentioned, is known as the last holdout for the Ukrainians in that city. The soldiers who were there, they have been fighting and protecting that part of the city. And at the same time, you have hundreds of civilians, mostly women and children, who have taken refuge from the fighting and the bombing in the underground tunnels and bunkers there. So there's a lot happening. There's fighting, and there's also survival happening there. And we know of efforts to evacuate those civilians, the humanitarian corridors that have been opened in the days prior. There was a hope that another evacuation would happen today, but we've received no reports that there was a successful evacuation. So there are still a number of civilians, we are told, there in that plant who are hoping and praying for a safe escape. Just yesterday, some civilians were able to escape, and the day before that. And so according to the United Nations, Terry, we know that on Wednesday, as many as 300 civilians were able to get out of that plant and reach safety during a negotiated ceasefire. But as we've seen in the days past, those ceasefires don't last that long. And shortly after the evacuations, the heavy shelling resumed once again.
Those few hundred people left out of a city that was the size of Miami. When we look at the pictures, the devastation, it's amazing anyone is left. The deputy mayor of Mariupol claims that some of the city's residents are now being forcibly detained in appalling conditions. Those are his words. In Russian, quote, filtration camps. Now, that's a war crime, an alleged war crime that really we haven't heard a lot about, but the Ukrainians talk a lot about. The Russians are basically, they say, kidnapping hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, putting them in filtration camps so that they can then be shipped into Russia. It's staggering. What can you tell us about what's happening there?
Yeah. Terry, that's the allegation coming from the Ukrainians, including the deputy mayor of Mariupol, who even said that early on, about a month ago, that many of the men from Mariupol were detained, forcibly detained, and had their passports taken. And then other civilians who have been evacuated from the plant have been held in these alleged filtration camps and are being kept there in atrocious conditions, forced to sleep on the floor, the deputy mayor said, as well as having very little, if any, access to food and medicine. And so those are the accusations that are coming from the Ukrainians, and it certainly does represent they say, the barbaric nature of what is happening, and they want the world to know what is happening to the civilians who escape this plant, or who are, as they say, are forcibly removed from their homes and then taken to Russian-controlled territory.
And even into Russia. They're losing their country, some of them, too, is the allegation. So how's the fighting going? Look, the Russians made a big deal. This is our offense, our offensive, this push in the east. This is what we always wanted to do anyway, because as they were retreating from Kyiv, they said this is the main goal. Everybody brace themselves. What's going on?
Well, it would appear, Terry, based on all the information we have, that their advance on Ukraine, and in particular in the east, has been slowed. While they have been able to make some progress, it's been negligible. And the Ukrainians have been successful in not only stopping the Russian advance, but also pushing them back farther to the east or away from Ukraine. And part of that is thanks to the assistance they're getting, both in military equipment from the U.S. and from the West, as well as ammunition. But as you mentioned at the top of the newscast, their will to fight, and that has not changed. In fact, despite the conflicting reports about what we've heard about the Russian advance on the plant in Mariupol, the Ukrainians say that they have not surrendered and they won't. And it's a similar story in all of the other cities. It's important to point out, Terry, that the Russians, yes, they have been able to take some of the smaller communities, but the Ukrainians have been able to take some of that territory back. So at this point, Ukraine, it does not appear that they are winning this war, but they're certainly not losing the ground that they were early on and are finding some success in stopping the Russians and pushing them back.
It remains astonishing, really, to see the Ukrainian army having such success. As you point out, they are winning the war, but they are performing in incredible ways. Marcus Moore in Ukraine. Thanks very much for that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.